I don't know where to start from, but CPA Band here, and I call him my senior in the profession because we're both certified public accountants, but he has more years of practice than I am. But I'm surprised at some of the comments that he's making. Because let's first of all tackle the issue of debt. Part of why we have such a huge budget this particular year is to settle debts that were borrowed by the handshake regime. Because what those people were doing, when it came to a time to pay salaries, and there was no money in the exchequer, what do? They would look at who is the most available person to lend the money. So they borrowed from IMF, they borrowed from World Bank, they borrowed from locally. They borrowed so much that there is no legroom left. I am really perplexed at the remarks that he's making about the budget of this particular regime. And that's why I find the political hypocrisy of our brothers and sisters from the side of the other side of the political divide. Because on the night of Tuesday, up to around 10:50 a.m., we passed what we call the Committee of Supply that was giving money for budget. And every chairperson of the departmental committees, which was in agreement with the other members of those particular committees, which are drawn from the close side of the political divide, approved that particular budget. The compensation we saw yesterday in the finance bill was not there when we were doing the budget. And you see, the appropriations bill or the budget estimates and the finance bill are conjoined. One is the expenditure side and one is the supply side. So you cannot, with a straight face, say, I am okay with these expenditures, but I'm not okay with the revenues that are supposed to finance those expenditures. You cannot say that with a straight face. It's like at home. You cannot say that you are going to buy a house, and then now when it comes, now fill the form here for a mortgage, or fill the form here for us to deduct this from your pay. Now saying, no, but I want the house. So we really need to be honest as Kenyans. This particular budget was passed by everyone across the political divide, and there was no compensation. Now, how would we finance that? We have only two options. You either increase taxation or you borrow. On the borrowing side, we don't even have an option because we can't even borrow. There is no leg room left.
400 billion to hit the ceiling?
Yes, it's only we have only 400 billion shillings to hit the ceiling. And for starters, even part of that particular budget that you're saying has overshot, 985 billion of it is to settle, it's paid off debts. Were those 958 billion? Was that debt that was incurred by Kenya Kwanza? No. It was money that was borrowed over the years. So we found ourselves in a hole, and we have an option. Whether to get out of the hole or keep digging. And we have only two options. For example, the VAT on fuel, what we perhaps are not saying, is going to raise an additional 61 billion shillings. We asked our members from across the political divide yesterday, fine, give us what the alternative is to this 61 billion, because you did approve the budget yesterday.
Honorable Kuria Kimani, I'll come to you, Honorable Mbadi. Talk to me about this.
Thank you.
On the whole progress and process, what will the taxes as proposed in the finance bill, now passed, will raise in terms of revenues? Just I need the number.
Yes, initially the proposals on the bill was to raise around 211 billion shillings. But after public participation, and that is the beauty of talking to Kenyans, we have very many brilliant Kenyans who have got very brilliant ideas. We actually realized that we could raise 100 billion shillings more, because there was a very interesting clause on the bill that was exempting from tax transfer of businesses as a going concern. And just by deletion of that clause, we were going to raise an additional 100 billion shillings. So as a result, the amendment finance bill as passed yesterday will actually realize an additional 311 billion shillings.
So you'll be getting more than 300 billion Kenyan shillings in revenue.
And that is just on the amended finance bill, not on the current. I don't know on the current. I'm saying now the differences that you've made in the finance bill that will release an additional 311 billion shillings, which is 100 billion shillings more than what was initially proposed.
Okay. So that is roughly 300 billion Kenya shillings. Because I want to tie it to the cost of corruption, Dr. Khalwala, and that's where the responsibility is, owing to reports that were issued by relevant state agencies in the country. You talked about borrowing, Honorable Kuria Kimani. And data from the National Treasury here in my position shows that the new administration, Kenya Kwanza, tapped loans worth 452 billion Kenya shillings in the 6 months to March this year from October last year, which is more than the 434 billion Kenya shillings that its predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta's government, borrowed in the same period earlier.
Come up again, sorry?
So data from the National Treasury shows that the new administration, Kenya Kwanza, tapped loans worth 452 billion in the 6 months to March this year from October 2022, which is more than 434.6 billion than what Uhuru Kenyatta borrowed the same period.
Thank you. Two things you attribute to this. First of all, if you look at the budget policy statement that was read in the financial year 23-24, we're anticipating actually to have a borrowing of around 800 billion. In fact, it is 900 billion. That was what was anticipated.
824.
824. That was what was anticipated by the budget policy statement for last financial year. And then secondly, what is the uniqueness of the financial year 2022-23? And we must all appreciate the uniqueness of this. We are going to elections. So what happens in a year of election? And I keep saying this, it's a painful thing, and I really hope that with time you're going to change this. When we come to elections, it's like we fold our country and now get our country back way after the elections. Because of how heavily that particular election was contested, because of the event that happened after that, not the Supreme Court, but especially the Mandamano Mondays that followed, we had everyone shy away from investing in Kenya. We had businesses that wanted to expand, that wanted to recruit, just shying away from doing that. So as a result, it's like we were not in business for months. We were actually at a standstill. And what did that do? When you do Mandamano for a whole Monday in Nairobi City, the city that gives us the highest GDP, where we collect the highest amount of revenues per day, it means our collections will drastically reduce. When we are on the news across the world that Kenya is quote-unquote burning, we do not have anybody wanting to come and invest with us. If we have that, even if we went to borrow, now our cost of credit goes high. Our exchange rate takes a dip. And all these things, and especially because we are actually a net importer, our balance of payment, we are net importer. It means that when that affects our exchange rate, the cost of everything that we import goes way higher than what was budgeted for.
Okay,
but we're hoping that now, having now gone back to normalcy, and I would really, for this, thank our Azimio brothers and sisters, that we are agreeing the conversations that we are supposed to have, let us have them in the right place at the National Assembly and at the Senate, and let those decisions be made there. With that normalcy being seen, and with the positivity now we are seeing in Kenya in the global market, we are going to see a lot of changes happening now in the country.
Thank you.